On a minute. Okay. All right. Okay. Trying to get to the. No, well, I can't get to it, I guess.
We'll arrive when we're absolutely supposed to arrive.
What's up, folks?
Hello.
Oh, well, I'll skip the intro.
This lineup is too epic for an intro. Even
Yeah.
one as cool as yours.
Man. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Horror Hangout live stream. I'm your host today, Sean Patrick Erschen from the Horror Corner. And with us, we got special guest, Anthropomantic Fiend in the house.
Hello.
And Ross from Random Horror.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's all right. Yep.
Oh, I gotta get Jen again.
Yep. It's going well for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Apologize, guys. We're having trouble with our internet.
We can't hear you,
tonight.
Jen.
And as always, we got Jen's reviews from the grave.
It's all right if you're on a little bit of a delay.
Thank you, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
I approve of this like
Delay.
I'm glad you approve. We also have Trivial Theater in the house.
I'm ready for some British cuisine of horror. That doesn't make any sense. I apologize.
And of course, we got the horror miser, Monty G, in the house.
I'd like some scones, please.
But what will you have on those scones? That's really the question.
I'll take some jelly.
So, Anthro Fiend, tell me about Karnstein, the band. There's a metal band or something?
Yes. So this is actually my friend's band, Karnstein. They're from Canterbury in the UK. They're kind of a mix of like black metal, doom metal, and they do songs inspired by a lot of classic gothic horror. Obviously, they have like 4 songs that all tell the story of Carmilla, but they've also got Frankenstein. They've got a song called Curse of the Werewolf. They've got a Creature from the Black Lagoon song, even. They've got a bunch of different horror-inspired songs. And Rhea, their front woman, happens to be a friend of mine. I was in the UK for a month in May for a study abroad with my college, and we met up and went to a metal show together. It was awesome. So
Awesome.
Highly recommend checking out Karnstein.
Nice. Yes, Mr. Dan, we do have an all-star panel, although we lost Jen again. Hey, Hobbs, what's going on?
Awesome to see you.
What's up, Hobbs?
Hello.
Hobbs in the house.
We're not in
All
a
right,
house.
guys.
We're in the Hobbs horror house.
Yeah. So we're talking about British horror cinema today. And we're gonna start with my favorite Hammer horror. Anybody who follows my channel probably knows I'm a big fan of Hammer horror. Yeah, and they're still going to this day. You know, they rebooted recently back in 2010, so that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna start with a huge one, an absolutely huge one, and that is, what is everyone's favorite Hammer Dracula film? We'll start with Anthropomantic Fiend.
All right. This is a tough one for me. I mean, the original horror of Dracula is just a really simple, really solid movie, but I also have a soft spot for the satanic rites of Dracula. I was getting into
Me
a
too.
lot of vampire stuff when I first saw that one. It's goofy as hell, but I love it. I also have a soft spot for Dracula AD 1972. Last year, I was on the Hammer versus Universal stream, and I had just met Caroline Munro at a convention, and she had signed my copy of that movie. She was a sweetheart.
Oh, cool.
So that one's
Cool.
sentimental for me, but Taste the Blood of Dracula is just delightful. It's just, it has this kind of, it's a really straightforward, horrific plot, but it kind of has this devilish sense of humor under it the whole time that I really appreciate. That's probably my favorite.
Excellent choice. How about you, Ross?
Well, there's a few, isn't there? I do like the 1958 Dracula, but I also do like the what is it? Prince of Darkness.
Prince
Yeah.
of Darkness is excellent too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't really speak much when he's.
Doesn't speak at all.
He had no
Don't
line.
say any of the lines.
No, in that one, he never spoke when he had the fangs in because he couldn't
Yeah.
talk properly with
Wow.
them. But yeah, I've got this streaming platform that's only in Britain called BritBox, and they have like, from classic British TV shows to classic British films, and they do have a horror section with Hammer films on it. So I watch a lot of it on there, or on Legends Vintage Vault on Sunday nights.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That shows you like the power of Christopher Lee as an actor, that he can do an entire movie without any lines and still be intimidating, still, not miss a beat, really.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Still feral and,
Yep. I also got the
imposing.
sense that, like, with a lot of those movies, he just kept getting them to cut lines because he didn't like the dialogue they wrote for him.
Yeah.
He has been up front saying that, yeah.
Yeah. And also the reason that he couldn't get his words out with fangs in.
Which is also fair. I've got my little pair of scarecrow fangs over here, and I can talk with them in, but not without lisping. So
Yeah.
Nice.
It's all about the hand, like Bela Lugosi taught us.
Yeah. Come back.
And didn't Bela Lugosi pass his Dracula ring on to Christopher Lee for him to wear in the movies too?
Is that true?
I
didn't
think
know
so. At some point, there was a ring that Lugosi wore the 2 times he played Dracula in the original and in Abbott and Costello, and that was his Dracula ring. And then he passed it on to Christopher Lee, and he started wearing it and everything. Hey, thanks, Rhea.
Hey,
We got Rhea from Karnstein in the
band
chat.
there.
Oh,
Hell
yes.
Nice. Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
We're going to be talking some Constantine soon. We're going to get to that. Stick around.
Oh yeah.
How about you, Trivial Theater?
They're all like you said, Christopher Lee just embodies that role. I mean, and I think it was brought up in the group chat earlier about how they reused that shot of Christopher Lee's bloodshot eyes and appears in a lot of movies, but the power of that alone to be able to move people, that's fantastic in itself. He's such a great actor, but there is that bit of Dracula that is so much better because it's him playing it. But for me, I love like kind of schlocky goofy, and 72 or 1972 is like my go-to. It was the first one I saw. I absolutely love it. The translation to a more modern time while still maintaining a lot of that classic verbiage. And I saw it before I ever went abroad, and to know that there was a castle that was around in like, you know, when Dracula was originally kind of coming up, and then that same cathedral, and to have that same one, you know, being torn down at that point was, I don't know, even though it's not that far, it's not like thousands of years by any stretch, to realize that, oh crap, there's places that are older than all of that stuff. I just, yeah, that made it really cool. And yeah. So, anyway.
No, I get that. It's a really fun movie, and I do love the idea that there's these remnants of the old Gothic world that are still around in the modern world. That's why I love things like Fright Night, besides a ton of other reasons, but like I love the stories about just like kids who love horror realizing, oh wait, that stuff's like from all long ago, but it's still here. Like it never left.
Bearing it does not take it away. And
exactly.
the way that I can't think of his name. The guy that plays like Disco Dracula, like the way that he gets taken out. I love that ending so much.
I mean, George Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Love at first bite. Yes.
Oh yeah, but just fantastic the way that he gets taken out. It's so unique, and yet it maintains all of those standards that have been held to that point in previous Hammer Dracula movies.
True. One cool thing about Dracula AD 1972 is Dracula dies not once, but twice.
That's so true, actually.
Once with the wooden wheels stick through his heart. That's awesome when him and Van Helsing are battling on the top of the the carriage.
Yeah.
Not the way you would expect Van Helsing to go out by any stretch.
No.
And it was great to have Peter Cushing back in the series, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just to go on a quick tangent to what TYTD Reviews is saying, I have seen the Jess Franco Dracula. I don't care for it that much. Like, it's a faithful adaptation. The actors are good. It's just kind of dull the way it's done.
I've seen it too.
But Soledad Miranda, who plays Lucy in that, went on to play Countess Carity in Vampiros Lesbos. And I do want to quickly mention, I watched the special features for that movie recently, and there's an earlier British horror movie called The Sound of Horror. And it's the cheesiest thing in the world. It's a bunch of people stuck in a house trying to fend off an invisible dinosaur that's trying to break in. No special effect for the dinosaur. It's invisible.
Oh my God.
But two of the prominent actresses in their first roles in that are Soledad Miranda and Ingrid Pitt.
Nice. And Ingrid Pitt, man, I watched and I know this is down the way a bit, but watching her do her thing in Vampire Lovers was just, man, yeah.
She really doesn't get the credit that she deserves as being a fantastic actress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Apologies, didn't mean to bring it up. I know it's down the way a bit here, but
and I've only seen two Jess Franco movies, which are his vampire ones, Dracula and Vampiros Lesbos. I like Vampiros Lesbos, though. I think it's very stylish. I just think his Dracula.
Oh, it is. It is. Mm-hmm. How about you, Monty? What is your favorite Hammer Dracula film?
I'm pretty sure most people know what my favorite. Of course, obviously, when it comes to Hammer and Dracula, I love all of the Dracula Hammer films. Not just Universal introduced me to horror, but Hammer horror and watching all the Dracula films growing up during the 70s. But of course, my favorite is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. It has one of my favorite lines.
You were going to say that.
Get that thing out of my sight.
Yes. Now, did he use Viagra to rise?
Man, when I first saw that, me and my brother just cracked up laughing. It was just so funny, and it sticks with me to this day.
He's just so offended when he sees that cross. He's so offended.
Hey, he's the
Who
Lord of
did this
he's the Lord of
thing?
Darkness.
Ooh, this
You can't
thing
blame
to
him.
me. Destroy her.
Throw it
Oh,
away.
but that's just always been my favorite. I mean, I actually think Taste the Blood of Dracula is my second favorite one because, like I said, that was a very good take, and I think Christopher Lee, he does it all the ones. I guess my least favorite ones is, I think it's the Scourge of Dracula. I forget which one.
Scars of Dracula, yeah.
The Scourge.
I
The Scourge.
I don't love Scars of Dracula. I don't hate it either. I'm honestly kind of surprised that it's as bad as it is because it's directed by Roy Ward Baker, who did The Vampire Lovers and
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde and so many really good movies. And he was like rewriting the script. So I would think that with his touch, it would be a really good movie, but it's kind of one of the worst in the Dracula canon.
Yeah, it's like to me, it's the weakest out of all the Dracula Hammer films from horror. I just didn't understand what they were going for with that particular plot line. I mean, put it this way: even the Kung Fu Dracula one.
I haven't seen it. Still haven't seen it.
You haven't seen the Golden? You haven't seen the Golden Vampires?
Seven Golden Vampires. I'm gonna be getting that Blu-ray at some point. I'm gonna get all the Hammer vampire movies at some point, but
yeah, and
I haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, it was amazing because when that first came out here in the 70s in the States, it was during the Kung Fu craze. When all the Bruce Lee movies coming out. Then we see this one, so everyone went to go see it, and they really didn't know it was an actual horror film. But all the people cared about was seeing people do kung fu.
I mean, it's a different kind of bloodshed, but it's still bloodshed.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot better than you would think,
Oh yeah.
It's actually pretty entertaining.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, that's better than the Scourge of Dracula.
Yep. I have no idea what the plot of that movie even is, to be frank, because all I know is it's the one with kung fu in it. So,
that is the plot.
Yeah,
it's amazing because
Peter
Cushing stars in it, but not Christopher Lee, which is kind of surprising. Yeah. That's why everyone was like surprised.
Other guy as Dracula.
Yeah, some other guys playing Dracula, but it's
John
like
Forbes Robinson, who was in a couple of the he was in Prince of Darkness.
Mm. Who does he play in Prince of Darkness?
One of the guys that goes up to visit the castle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's in the Vampire Lovers as the Dracula type guy there that watches,
Okay, he's the man in black in Vampire Lovers. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been
Count Karnstein, I think.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't have a name in that, but he's basically the same thing.
Yeah. I guess he's implied to be Count Karnstein in the Vampire Lovers. He's kind of just a guy in the novel. He's just the carriage driver, but they make him into Count Karnstein, I guess. We'll talk about those movies later.
I called him the Dark Mr. Bean.
Well, I guess Jen's having a lot of trouble, so I guess she's not going to be able to join us on the stream, which is a
I
shame.
hope Jen can come in, even if it's late, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, so next up we have the Hammer Frankenstein series, starring legendary Peter Cushing as the Baron Victor Frankenstein. Just as many movies in that series, So, what is everyone's favorite Hammer Frankenstein film? How about you, Ross?
Well, I recently rewatched Curse of Frankenstein, so that's one favorite. And then there's the is it Horrors of Frankenstein, the one where Dave Prowse plays the monster.
That's right.
Yeah, I like them two ones. There's just so many. They're all pretty much like more or less the same sort of thing to me, and that. But all I know is that Cushing plays Frankenstein, and Lee plays the monster. But that one, the Horrors of Frankenstein, is probably the only one where it doesn't have either of them in that.
Yeah, that's where Ralph Bates plays.
Yeah,
For young Victor Frankenstein.
yeah. My mum, she said when she was younger, she used to stay at her grandmother's house on weekends, and her and her sister, my aunt, would stay up late and watch these films, Hammer, Dracula, and Frankenstein. They would have a double bill on BBC Two late at night. So that's how I also got into these films as well, the Hammer horrors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But by the way, guys, if you didn't guess, my favorite Hammer Dracula is Horror of Dracula.
Surprise.
I didn't think
Nope.
that was a big surprise. And how about you, Anthropomantic Fiend? What is your favorite Hammer Frankenstein film?
For me, it's also got to be Curse of Frankenstein. I mean, it's just a really solid like story that's just focused in on like the Universal movies, particularly the first two James Whale ones, are a really good exploration of like the monster as a sympathetic figure. I love Curse of Frankenstein because it's exploring Victor Frankenstein as a fucking sociopath. Who is just so absolutely just cold and calculating, and like you just when you think you're getting a little bit of warmth out of him, he pushes somebody off a balcony. Like, it's great.
I mean, that is a
Love
way
that.
to tell someone you love them.
I guess.
Whoops. Oh, damn, I push up. Oh, damn. Sorry
Like,
about
he's
that.
like, watch out! The old man, and he just kind of like pushes him.
Telling the people that you below that person is going to land on, warning them is also a form of love.
That is a wonderful form of love.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in terms of other great things about that movie, the other thing that really cinches it for me is there is a great little match cut of Peter Cushing doing something incredibly bloody, and that going directly from that to the breakfast table, and someone going, "Pass the marmalade."
How about you, Trivial Theater? What's your favorite Hammer Frankenstein film?
Oh, my favorite has to be The Curse of Frankenstein. I don't think it gets much better, and it was kind of it was the movie that launched 1,000 ships. You know, what they had to do to bring it to life, and like to this day, when they were like when Frankenstein's monster like rips off the I guess part of the like coverings and stuff.
Bandages,
That just it gives me chills, even though
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times. Like their interpretation of the character, the way that they made it different but yet completely recognizable, it's just amazing. And yeah, there's very little to criticize about that. And the fact that they did it in the 50s, facing everything that they had to face, was just fantastic.
I mean, they really established Hammer horror with that movie. You know, with the
They did.
bright
Mhm.
color and their own take on the classic.
Yeah. And even the way that they did the machinery and such was so unique. Like the big wheel and the giant tank and all of those pieces. I just love all of the set pieces that they use to build their space.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, the laboratory. Yeah.
And the fact that the big wheel, like, and a lot of times, and obviously there's a lot of stuff that doesn't translate movie to movie, but those pieces do translate. Like, you know, you're watching a Hammer Frankenstein movie by the big fan, and all, you know, pieces like that. And I don't know, that stands out to me.
I might be completely just talking out of my ass here, but I know they did film some of the Rocky Horror Picture Show in like sets that were prominent to Hammer, but I'm pretty sure they did also like use some of the lab equipment from Curse of Frankenstein in that movie.
No.
Thank you for bringing that up. They actually, so the tank that they used was from, I think, Revenge of Frankenstein,
Okay.
I believe.
kidding.
And the place that they shot, the big castle they shot in, was oftentimes used by Hammer. And I don't remember exactly what movies they used it for, but that was a commonly used, at least exterior, and I think interior too, because they used both. So yeah, that was a very common Hammer horror location.
That's really cool.
Very much.
Mhm.
All right, Monty, how about you? What's your favorite Hammer Frankenstein film?
Oh yeah, well it's got to be obviously the Curse of Frankenstein, because it was the first time that I saw another film based on Mary Shelley's book, and the fact that it was in color. So you got to give Hammer Horror for that. I think it was the first Hammer horror film that I saw before I saw the House of Dracula, and I was very impressed by obviously the acting, seeing Christopher Lee, playing the monster, seeing Peter Cushing do a different take, actually playing a bad guy in this one. You want to say he was a bad guy in this film right here, as opposed to the typical hero role he normally plays in the films that I've seen him before. So I really got to give them credit, and I really thought it was their own take on Mary Shelley's novel. Totally, a little bit different than what Universal did. That's why we always hit these Universal versus Hammer when it comes to the monsters, the Universal monsters.
And I think to your point, that was like the first movie they did that was like that. Like Hammer had done some horror stuff before that. Like they did the Quatermass movies, which but those were like black and white, and they were modern pieces. And Curse of Frankenstein was their first test run of, what if we did gothic horror and we did it period, and we did some of the same stuff that Universal did, but we did it in color and with garish red blood. And then they realized they worked, and that's what we know Hammer for now.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Very true. Well, I guess it's unanimous. Curse of Frankenstein. Hell yeah, it's an absolutely awesome movie. I mean, it's the movie that built Hammer,
Yeah.
Put them on the map.
It's the movie that really built Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee's horror careers, frankly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal. Everything about it. The score is amazing. I love the performances. I love the depth to Frankenstein's character, Peter Cushing. I love how he is basically a bad guy, but
yeah.
It's understandable, his methods, because he's doing it all in the name of science and to further science along, and he's obsessed with science, and he'll do anything to, including kill people for his cause. Like the madness that drives him. It's very interesting.
That's the thing I love about it so much, because like in the Mary Shelley novel, like, you're getting pretty much everything as like a story that Victor Frankenstein is telling to Captain Walt, and then at some point you're like, oh, this poor guy, and like you kind of get caught up in it, and then you're like, wait, he's kind of shitty. He's kind of letting people fall for him. He's abandoning the creature he just created. He's kind of the worst. And I think that the Hammer movie captures that. Like, you're getting a story that he's telling someone else from his perspective, but you're seeing what a horrible person he is through the story he's telling you.
Very true.
Like, I think it's really, yeah, there's kind of a dark humor to that, but it's so chilling. It's so chilling.
It's got that whole kind of like modern psychological take done in the 50s.
Yeah. Oh, and like, not to mention the fact that the movie ends with Peter Cushing being taken to the guillotine, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Off with his head.
And you gotta love Elizabeth's character there, like she's completely oblivious to everything going on, all the horrors going on upstairs in the laboratory. She has no idea.
Yep. I think that's where the pass the marmalade line comes in,
Mhm.
actually.
Despite everything Paul tells her,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and there's
You
that.
must leave here. Like she doesn't care.
Well, and there's that thing too about, and I know that era weddings were probably much more involved than weddings today, but to have a corpse pieces upstairs, oof, and to not realize that while you're trying to plan out, whether you want chicken or beef.
Also, can we talk about how Victor is going to marry his cousin?
I mean, that's from the book too. Like, there's
that's from the book.
incest in that book,
It is.
and like it does depend on what edition of the book you read, because in some of them, they're blood relatives, and in some of them, Elizabeth's his adopted sister. But it's never less icky, no matter which way you do it.
True.
That's the one I'm familiar with, where she's his adopted sister.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's the edition most people read. That's the
Yeah.
edition that the Kenneth
Yeah.
Branagh, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is
Yeah, it was.
very closely adapted.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
because that's the one I read when it was his adopted sister and he winds up marrying. I'm like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of normalized.
Oh yeah.
think, though.
I know.
And amongst royalty, barons and all that kind of stuff, and kings and queens and stuff. Yeah, it definitely, got to keep the blood pure. I would say too, the way that they took out their mentor, it's like, oh hey, look, there's a thing.
Yeah.
Poor
Oh
guy.
yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, yeah. Oh my God, it's like, oh, if you lose a kidney, are you gonna take Elizabeth down too? Probably.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Nope.
Yeah, but it really is what's that over there?
Don't damage the brain. No, I damage the brain before we even start. My plan was perfect, except for how I killed him.
I have to agree with Mr. Dan Har. Frankenstein Create Woman is also my second favorite.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I've seen that one. It's been so long that the other reason Curse of Frankenstein won for me is that it's been so long since I've seen the other ones. I barely remember them.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
only remember them two: Curse of Frankenstein and the Horrors.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I think I saw that one sometime during the 70s, and I just happened to look at that, and I was because at first I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is not The Bride of Frankenstein, is it? And then I realized it was a Hammer horror film. I said, okay. And I watched it. I said, okay, this is pretty good.
Yeah, really was.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a little quick anecdote about Curse of Frankenstein, and the first time I saw any of it before we move on. There was a little video store where I live called Wild and Woolly Video, and it doesn't exist anymore because of
Aw.
streaming, like essentially killing it. They went out of business. They weren't getting enough people going. But you could, rent movies there, and I used to go all the time, and they were owned by a couple of people who loved cult stuff, and they just had a TV in there all the time, and they would just play literally whatever they wanted. I was this tiny kid coming in to rent like cartoons with my family, and that's where I first saw Curse of Frankenstein. They were playing it on a TV in there as I was this small child going in to rent like Stardust or whatever, and it was great.
Well, you walk out with Stardust and Curse of Frankenstein. I'd say that's a good night's entertainment right
Oh
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Russ Horror of Frankenstein has Veronica Carlson and Kate O'Mara. That's a double plus for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now we're going to get into the infamous Karnstein trilogy. Yes.
Oh boy.
And we're actually going to rank them. So we'll all start with, I guess, our least favorite, going up to our favorite. So I will begin with my least favorite, Lust for a Vampire, which I watched again last night. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. It's fun to watch, but is it a great movie? Not really.
Yep.
A little bit sleazy,
I
a
mean,
little bit cheesy,
yeah.
A little bit rock and roll.
and a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was hilarious. Like at the beginning when you see Christopher Lee's eyes, you know, and it's supposed to be the Count Karnstein or whatever, but you see
Yep.
literally taken from Dracula has risen from the grave.
Also, Ria in the chat does make a good point. The technical pronunciation is closer to Frankenstein, so more Karnstein than Karnstein, but you know.
It's Karnstein.
But yeah, Lust for a Vampire is. I've ragged on that movie so hard, and I've absolutely trashed it. I've watched it a few more times since then, and I actually enjoy it for what it is. But my main problem with it is like Carmilla's the archetypal lesbian vampire character, essentially. I have no problem with them making her a bisexual character and fall in love with a man, but the main character that she falls in love with is such a bland dweeb of a character that it's not a good look for her.
That's true. Yeah. Strange love. That's so wrong.
But yeah, that song is such a weird thing. Like, I don't think any of the actors knew it was going to be in the movie until they put it in there. The crux of the plot is weird. I do like that we get some more world building with who, like, Carmilla's family is, who the Karnstein clan actually. Now you've got me doing it. The Karnstein clan actually are. And I really like the weird Ralph Bates character who's essentially worshiping Carmilla and who's like immediately killed by her as soon as he reveals himself. That part's great. There's definitely things to like. I actually really like the look of the movie. It's just such a weak film compared to the other two.
Yeah. It's got a lot of similarities to the Vampire Lovers. Like, you still see the Count Karnstein watching in the background as she does her thing, you know?
Yeah, they're still working the Karnstein family con act on the girls' school as opposed to like the families they're going around. It's got that going for it, but yeah, it's not the same.
But the guy that plays Count Karnstein is so over the top. Like, oh my god, you're killing me, dude.
The way he just steps into the scene and just goes, "A heart attack," is my favorite.
I think, like, why couldn't they hire like a classic, like, veteran of British cinema? They hired this guy who's like a DJ or something.
Yeah, like
he did feel like
really.
He feels like
he looks like almost like Christopher Lee.
Maybe that's why they hired him.
He
has
so
like kind of
maybe that's why they hired him, because he looks like Christopher Lee.
Yeah, I think the main thing that kind of sinks it doesn't sink the movie, but the reason it's not as good as it could have been is Ingrid Pitt was doing Countess Dracula, another great movie. They dubbed her voice out of it, even though like she has the accent for the nationality of the character she was doing. But that's a good movie. But she couldn't play Carmilla again, and then Peter Cushing had to bow out for other reasons. So
I
they
know
didn't
he was
have
supposed
any
to
of
be
the
in it too.
original
You
actors.
can imagine, like, I bet that would have made all the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't think Jutta Stensgaard was too bad. I kind of liked her. She's beautiful. I thought she was
okay.
all right. She can't hold a candle to Ingrid Pitt, but
Absolutely not.
It's like this when you have a person that does a role as iconic, as good as Ingrid Pitt did, and all of a sudden you got to cast in another person. It's just like when Jodie Foster plays Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs. He does return for the second film, Hannibal, and not to say that Julianne Moore didn't do a good job, but it's just like, damn, we're so used to what Jodie Foster did, and the same thing here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, I mean, going back to like Universal, like I don't dislike it when John Carradine plays Count Dracula.
No, neither do I. No,
but like it feels like a different character to me.
Yeah.
When like when Christopher Lee consistently plays Dracula, that is the definitive Hammer Dracula. And I think if they had been able to schedule Ingrid Pitt to play Carmilla again, she could have become a long-running character the way Lee's Dracula did, because she's so strong in that role.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
How about you, Ross? What's your pick for the least favorite of the Constein trilogy?
Probably Lust for a Vampire. And well, maybe Vampire Lovers. See, I've had that one go. I've had the whole
Really?
three
Wow.
of them just like change spots over time and that. But yeah, probably the one I have least memories of is Lust for a Vampire.
Yeah.
I do like that one though, Twins of Evil. I recently rewatched that one because it was on BritBox, and I just thought, I will be talking about this, no doubt. I'll give it a watch again. So that one's more fresher in my mind at the minute because, like I said, I rewatched it. But I didn't know those three films were a trilogy until a couple of years ago. But yeah, like I say, they make Hammer made so many of these vampire horror movies that they all sort of feel the same, but they have different stories and plots to them and that. But like same vampire stuff, and you know, a lot of them do have Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee in there. Because I feel those two are like the faces of Hammer horror.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely wouldn't have been the same without them. There's no doubt about that.
No.
Hey, Ross, do they show the British TV show The Avengers on BritBox?
Oh yeah, it does have that on there, BritBox. The Avengers on BritBox.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good show. I like that.
Yeah, I mainly watch it for classic Doctor Who.
Oh,
Very fair.
I knew they would have Doctor Who on there. Just let everybody know there was a British TV show called The Avengers, not Marvel's The Avengers.
Or the American take on Avengers that came out in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, that's why in the UK and Ireland, the Marvel Studios Avengers is called Avengers Assemble to save the confusion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were supposed to be a more coherent trilogy, but then like rewrites happened and everything like just fell apart. Like Twins of Evil was supposed to be another like Carmilla movie with her as a character, and then the writer was like, nah, I want to do something completely different, but I'm gonna connect it to Carmilla. And so he did. It's great, but it's not really very linearly connected to any of the other story elements.
Yeah, that's why when it comes to this to this trilogy, I always say it's the twin. Not saying that the Twins of Evil or was a bad movie. It's just like, what are you doing here? It's like, where's the vampires? It's like, okay, it's an okay film for a horror film, but it's like I where's it's like I don't know what I guess because they just had to make so many changes because they couldn't get Ingrid Pitt back to do the second film, and so they had to make changes to that one. And then the third one, I guess they decided to do something totally different. But when it comes to this trilogy, it's the Twins of Evil for me. It's my least favorite of this trilogy.
Really.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does connect this entire trilogy front to back is the use of see-through white, like very sheer 90s.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. That's very apparent.
If you see one of those, you're watching one of the movies in this trilogy.
Yeah.
Or another 70s lesbian vampire. They love their sheer floaty 90s.
Hey, you know what? I got no issues with that.
I know.
You leave little to the imagination.
Because I think he was watching one of the trilogies, and my mother saw me watching it. She says, "Monty, turn that off." He doesn't want me watching that. I said, "Mom, it's just a horror movie."
I mean, you can't see everything. You can't. If you squint, you won't see.
Yeah. You just got to get a bad print of the movie so nobody
Exactly.
can see anything while you're
You know what
watching
you say? It's just shadows. It's just the way the fabric works and the shadows.
It's just the lighting. Don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. What was I gonna say? I think because my nerdy brain does want to connect everything as a chronological trilogy, I think Twins of Evil works better as a prequel in terms of the time period it's set in.
Yeah.
And the genesis of because Mirkala's there, which it's never going to make total logical sense, but it could make sense for how Count Karnstein becomes a vampire and then sort of starts spreading the plague that you see in the other two movies.
That's true.
But yeah, Twins of Evil, that's my second favorite if we want to start doing that. It's like Ria says, really good movie. I'm actually planning on getting a Twins of Evil t-shirt in a couple of days because I saw a really nice design.
Yeah, good.
But I think it's a really interesting battle between this Puritan who thinks he's doing what's right but is hurting people, and Count Karnstein, who's the most hedonistic person in the world and all about being this libertine, but knows what he's doing is wrong and wants to find the most evil thing possible to do. And
he's out for the next high,
Yeah.
You got the highest of the high.
And oh shit, I didn't know that my shirt is based on a scene from that movie, but it kind of checks out if you want to look at the design.
Nice.
It is kind of Twins of Evil inspired.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But yes, I love that you do have kind of your average Joe male protagonist character in there, but you've also got of the titular twins, the really sweet, innocent one who kind of errs more on the side of Peter Cushing's character, and the hedonistic one who wants to go with Count Karnstein and gets bitten. And you've got these two extremes, neither of which are good, and they're the main forces driving the movie. And I love that there's not a clear good or evil side. There's one good guy character, but it's mostly just Puritans who are actually hurting people and devil worshippers who know they're hurting people but are doing it anyway. I just think that's fun.
I like how it injects a little bit of the Salem witch trial stuff in there with Peter Cushing. Though he's hunting down all the people who he believes are practicing witchcraft and stuff. And he's pretty brutal about it.
Oh, for sure. I my favorite thing in that movie is the first time we see the guy Count Karnstein has hired as his entertainer, who's like doing this really lurid satanic ritual in front of him, and he's just sort of like, has nobody actually died yet? This is boring. Do something real. But yeah, I had not picked up on the fact that this is a Twins of Evil reference t-shirt, but hell yeah, I love it even more now. Awesome. And yes,
cool
I love how casually Count Karnstein just is aggressively like satanic and just hedonistic. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah.
He loves it.
He's been around the block. He's tried everything out, and it's like, you know what? This is the best way to go.
And Carmilla actually makes some vampires. That's the only part with Carmilla in it. You know.
Yep.
They kind of use a random girl to like bring her back to life or whatever.
Yep. It is really funny to me that in the whole trilogy, the Carmilla Mercala character is played by three completely different women in all three movies. Like, no consistency at all. Peter Cushing is like the only standby in all three movies, and he's playing two different characters.
And then you have the Collinson twins, who are, you know, Playboy playmates of the year.
But solid actresses as well. Like, you can tell the difference between the good girl and the evil.
Yeah. I like that too. How, you know, you get the one girl that's good, and the other girl's kind of open for anything. She's up for anything.
Yep. And they do the kind of classic swap the identical twins plot that's been around as long as like Shakespeare.
I mean, it is essentially Parent Trap.
Yeah, it's essentially Parent Trap. It's also essentially like Comedy of Errors. That plot has been around forever.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I studied Shakespeare, and that's what I was doing in the UK. I've got a little bit of Shakespeare brain rot. I think I learned things, but that's just stuck in here as a frame of reference forever now. So you're going to have to deal with it.
No, it's just here.
Trivial Theater, what is your least favorite of the series?
You mean my second, or are we still on?
Well, I don't think you picked your least favorite yet.
Sorry, this is me trying to hide. So it's by just a tiny bit. Sorry, I had to get myself back up here. So the Lust was the first one that I saw, so it kind of holds a place in my heart because regardless of how bad it was, I thought it was a standalone movie until I did research on it, and it was much further down the way than I like to admit. So by they're all pretty close for me, just based on that. Twins of Evil is probably my worst, but it's not because it's a bad movie. It's more just because I hold Lust a little higher because it was the first one that I saw. And I'll go back to hiding now.
That's valid.
How about you, Ross?
So what are we on? The least favorite still?
No, we're on to the next.
Yeah.
What's the next? Your next favorite?
Probably the Vampire Lovers. That's the one I've seen the least anyway, out of the three.
Oh.
So, yeah, I'll put that as my second one. So, Lust followed by Vampire Lovers.
Okay. I'm gonna say Twins of Evil.
And then Twins of Evil, yeah, the top one.
Yeah, good film, very good. I like that. I thought the Collinson twins were very good. You know.
Yep.
Even they didn't have a whole lot of acting experience, they're surprisingly good.
Yeah.
And Peter Cushing, I think, is just amazing.
Oh yeah.
I think it's probably one of his best roles.
The other thing about that role is he was dealing with the loss of his wife, and he was kind of towards like the last legs of his run in acting at that point. He was just really sad during that movie, and it kind of you can kind of see it in his character. Like it's this very over the top role. Like I love his whole speech about purifying people's souls by burning them. It's a little bit absurd, but there's also something really, really sad about that character.
Yeah, very much.
It's just this broken old man
with a funny hat.
Like when he gets pissed about the girls are wearing like green outfits instead of wearing black to be in mourning. How long are you supposed to be in mourning? Like 7 years? Like after some guy dies?
According to him, probably.
Yeah. The fact that we didn't get an okay boomer out of that was kind of funny.
If it was made now.
Yeah, very true.
Also, I don't think we mentioned the music from Twins of Evil yet, but the score for that, I think the composer was literally just like he wanted to make a Western, so he just did. And it definitely works for the movie because you've kind of got this mock triumphant theme that it sounds almost like superheroic for like Peter Cushing and his brigade of Puritans as they're burning screaming women alive. Like you're hearing these triumphant horns and while they're doing the most horrible things you've ever seen to people. And it kind of gets across like what they, feel like they're doing as opposed to what's actually happening.
Very true. All right, let me just get this out of the way. Number one, Vampire Lovers for me. I love this. This is one of my favorite Hammer movies, like, period. I love this movie. And I think Ingrid Pitt is phenomenal. She's, like, just with this movie alone, she, like, became infamous because she's so freaking good in it. She's, like, literally, like, the female Dracula, like 100%. She's got a voice like Dracula, she's a very hypnotic like Dracula. Yeah, fantastic film, amazing score, by the way. I have this on my iTunes and I listen to it regularly. Fantastic score. It's just a great vampire movie in general, not just a great lesbian vampire movie or whatever.
Yeah. But as a lesbian vampire movie, I think like people are like, oh yeah, they did this so they can, show a bunch of skin, and like the British ratings had changed at the time and this was an excuse to show more skin, and all of that is true. But the way that they do it and the way that the characters are communicated by, Ingrid Pitt and Madeline Smith, like she's a really nuanced character. Like you get a little bit of like a sadness and reluctance, but she's also still like this master, like you said, Sean, like Dracula-esque manipulator, hypnotizer. And you get both of those in the same character, which I feel like some versions of Carmilla or the lesbian vampire character play it as just like a sympathetic, misunderstood character or just a completely evil manipulator. And I think Ingrid Pitt does both in this movie.
There's a bit of conflict, I think, because I think she actually does love Madeline Smith's character and wants her as her companion, I guess. That's why she wants to kind of take her away to her castle and
Yep. Emma, meanwhile, has no idea what's going on.
No.
Well, she spends most of the movie in bed, so it's.
Oh no, yeah,
yeah.
Not by her own volition.
Smith claims that she didn't know what a lesbian was when she made the movie, which kind of tracks in her performance.
That's a good point.
Very.
But yeah, it's still got some of the most beautiful, amazing Gothic scenery, and
Cool.
yeah, it's still got that classic Hammer flavor done
Mhm.
so well.
I
It's
listened
not
to-
even there. We come to the 70s when they did kind of start going downhill a little bit, but this isn't one of the movies where it goes downhill. It's one of the gems, in my opinion.
Yeah, a fun thing about the scenery, which is some of my favorite, the costumes too. It's just one of the most beautiful looking Hammer movies, in my opinion. But I watched Madeline Smith's introduction in the movie on the newer Scream Factory re-release of the movie, and apparently the moon that Carmilla kind of looks out longingly out the window, that was a paper moon on a string. And they had
Nice.
to, fight for their lives just to get it to sit still outside that window. So apparently Madeline Smith has like fond memories of just the set people frantically trying to get the moon to sit still for that scene.
I love how when it comes to Carmilla and when it comes to men, she just throws them out like trash. Like,
yeah.
Women she'll kind of play around with, have a little fun, but
Yeah.
guys are just
Emma, she cares
disposable.
about men are juice boxes, basically.
A lot of women are too, honestly, the way that, and not in the same way, but they're last a little bit longer. But yeah, you're right. They definitely, which it kind of goes along with, like, you look at, women's liberation at the time too.
Mhm.
Some of that is reflected with that.
Oh yeah, like I think some of that movement, like people have talked about those things correlating as well,
yeah.
for sure. But yeah, I do get a sense that like with it's so confusing. I hate it when Gothic horror switches characters' names, because the first victim in Vampire Lovers is named Laura, which is the name of the main character who would be Emma in like the original Carmilla novel. But they changed the Laura character's name to Emma. But the Laura character, like, I really get a sense that Carmilla like really took her time kind of seducing her and enjoying that relationship with her before killing her. Not on the same level as with Emma, but it seems like she enjoyed that. Whereas with like the servants in the house where Emma lives, it really feels like she's just playing them for a moment and then killing them.
Poor Gretchen, though, she had to get left out of the action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mademoiselle Peridot.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, take me with you at the end. She's like, nope.
It's basically that scene from the end of the 1931 Dracula where Renfield's like, don't abandon me, master, and then Bela Lugosi throws Dwight Fry down a flight of stairs. As a matter of fact,
That's true. I never
he
thought
does
of
the
that.
same thing to her.
I mean, back in 1931, that is how you fired someone, politely. Darling, you're fired. Can I get my last paycheck?
No, you get a bite in the throat.
Yep. And a kick in the ass.
Yep. I do love this is a tangent, but I do love the new Renfield movie and its framing of like the Dracula Renfield relationship as like the worst codependent, like just the worst boss ever, basically.
Yeah. I liked how they redid some of the scenery from the original.
Yeah, I that was delightful to me.
Yeah.
Apparently, tying it back into this conversation, the director really wanted to show like the relationship through all the years and like Photoshop them into the Hammer movies and then into the Francis Ford Coppola movie. It's like he couldn't get the rights for everything, so he stuck with Universal.
Yeah.
I still need to see that.
It's so much fun. I saw it in theater. It's gory as hell, let me tell you.
I saw
Really?
it twice.
Oh yeah,
It's so
it was
gory.
pretty good. Yeah, it's very gory. Yeah, I because definitely Nicolas Cage. You could tell Nicolas Cage really having fun, him being out playing Dracula in that film. Yes,
But yeah, there's one of the biggest bloodbaths I've seen in a movie in a long time. So
Nice. All right, I gotta check it out.
Not as much as Evil Dead Rise, though.
not as much as Evil Dead Rise,
Oh,
to be
yeah.
fair. But I haven't seen Evil Dead Rise yet, so
Oh.
you know.
Oh, very good movie.
Oh
I
man, you need
enjoyed
to.
it.
I know.
Yeah.
But it was between Renfield and the Mario movie and Evil Dead Rise at that time in theaters, and I chose Mario and Dracula because I grew up with both of them. So
I suppose this time, but you do it again. If you miss out on Evil Dead Rise the next time it comes out,
okay,
oh man.
we'll have to make them do a Morbius and put it in theaters again.
There you go.
We were all busy that week.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Monty, what's your favorite of the series?
My favorite series is the Vampire Lovers. It's a little different horror film when it comes to vampires. You know, something I didn't see because at the time I really didn't know about the Carmilla and the novel and what it was based upon. To me, it was just another vampire film. You know, watching it young and seeing this little different take. And again, Ingrid Pitt does a fantastic job in playing her version of the character. And I really loved I really love the Vampire Lovers. Like, it's a different take. I think it's the first time I actually seen that type of same-sex couple in that particular movie. So I really got to give credit for Brenton doing something daring that we never saw before in film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like, I've watched so many lesbian vampire movies, so like other places in Europe were doing kind of the same thing. But this was the first time like a big mainstream studio in the UK was doing this. And it wasn't like some arty Jean Roland or Jess Franco movie. It was Hammer Studios, like, who did the Dracula movies, doing a high profile lesbian vampire movie.
Yeah. How about you, Trivial Theater?
So my top two, just so you don't have to, so it's all together. Lust for Vampires is my second one, just because of the fact that I saw it first, and that was kind of my introduction to the series. It's got some fun bits. It's got some cringy bits, but I like the aesthetic and kind of the look of it. It felt like it was out of time there. I don't know. It worked for me in ways. I know that it wasn't the greatest movie, but my best one is Vampire Lovers. For all the reasons that everyone has already said. There's the moment where Emma and Carmilla are sitting outside, and like there's a funeral procession going by, and she just like she looks like she's gonna cry. Her lip is tingling or not vibrating, trembling, and she just, I don't know. There's such emotion and such, you don't normally get that with a lot of vampire movies generally, and that level of emotion was really cool to see. So that along with everything else, that was the thing that made it top for me.
Oh, for sure. That's a scene directly out of the Carmilla novel, by the way.
Nice.
Like, just the absolute distraughtness of the character. Yeah, that's really faithful to the book. And thank you for the clarification, Rhea. Yeah, most of those Euro lesbian vampire movies did come out after Vampire Lovers. There was like a little bit of prerequisite. Just
I was gonna say that Blood and Roses.
I still haven't seen Blood and Roses, by the way. It's on my list. I just haven't. I want to get a good copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see.
That's kind of the bridge between, say, Dracula's Daughter, where they kind of insinuate a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Blood and Roses a little more. The Vampire Lovers goes kind of all the way.
Yeah. And then you get some of those European movies that just go even further.
Yeah.
Like so much further.
Yeah. Then you got Gene Rollins stuff.
Oh, for sure. The Jean Roland movies are wild. Have you seen Vampires with a Y? I think it's like a British Spanish.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's
No.
That's a good one. I reviewed it a while back. It's one of the most, like, it's just two two female vampires in like a decaying mansion who just like lure men in, like get them drunk on wine, drain their blood, and like leave them there as human juice boxes, basically. And like another
Nice.
like couple moves in next door, and it's like the neighbors are acting weird. I don't know what's going on in there. Should we investigate? And the husband's like, no, nothing's happening. It's fine.
And
Yeah.
that almost sounds like the movie I saw last year, House of Darkness, with Justin Long and his girlfriend.
Mm.
All right, Ross, what's your number one pick?
Twins of Evil.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've already discussed about it, haven't we? And stuff. So that is my number one pick there for that trilogy.
Nice. All right, guys. Moving onward. I know we spent a lot of time on Hammer, probably more than because we still got a lot to cover. You know.
I mean, you know who you got on this live stream. Like, what
Yeah.
do you expect us to do?
I know what I was in for. You know. So
Also-
next up, let's pick the most underrated Hammer film in your opinion. Let's start with Trivial Theater.
I don't know if it's well known, so it's not like cult type unknown, but or underrated. But like for all of the things that it has wrong with it, Curse of the Werewolf for me is probably my favorite.
That's a good movie.
It's fantastic. It's like everyone in that movie. It's a damn Greek tragedy. Like everybody gets
Yeah, I
fucked,
know,
you
right?
know.
Mhm.
Like, oh, this poor lady. Oh, you know, she gets, you know, taken advantage of, and then her kid is basically in the same boat and cursed to be a werewolf, you know. And even amongst werewolves, he probably would be an outcast because he's white and he's different than all the rest. And no, it's a fantastic movie. It's so well shot and it's such a different take than what Universal did, but it is so, I don't know, just solid in my book.
Yeah, it does draw on a lot of really traditional werewolf folklore that's not really the stuff that Universal was talking about. Rhea says it's
Right.
based on a book that I wasn't aware of, which
Really?
is cool.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, that prologue is more disturbing than anything else in the movie, to be honest. Like, there's no supernatural element to it per se, but it's so fucked up.
Mm-hmm. And just the performances too are so, they play to what's needed, and it's
Mhm.
done. You believe every single character, and not to, you know, that's not to say that you didn't get that with others, but as far as werewolf movies go, it is far and away my favorite.
Yeah, he was screwed from the get-go, you know.
Yeah. Like being born under a bad star or whatever.
Yeah. Never had a chance. How about you, Monty? What's your most underrated Hammer horror film?
I was about to say the same thing, The Curse of the Werewolf, because I really
Uh-huh.
did enjoy that one, because you know, you take a look at all the werewolf films that have come out even back in the day when Universal came out with theirs one, and then I saw Curse of the Werewolf, and I was like, wow, this is totally different. And Oliver Reed does a fantastic job in the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you saw him act as a baby. That was amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite old school werewolf films.
Definitely.
I agree.
Well, my personal is going to be Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. I absolutely love this movie.
I knew you were going to pick that one.
It's one you don't really hear too much about, and
No, you
it's
don't.
just a
No.
great twist on that classic story. Instead of him turning into a monster, he turns into a woman, you know. and they inject a lot of the Jack the Ripper elements as well. This is pretty much a slasher movie, you know. But in the best way. Fantastic performances all around. Ralph Bates is great. as is Martin Bestwick.
Oh yeah.
Awesome movie, great score, great classic Hammer Gothic tone. Yeah, it's the one that I watch it on a consistent basis. One of my favorite Hammer films.
For sure. I need to rewatch it, to be honest. That's another
I do.
Roy Ward Baker movie, by the way. Again, I cannot believe that Scars of Dracula is as poor quality as it is, because this is the guy who made that movie and The Vampire Lovers. Like, he's a really good director.
Blame it on the bats.
I mean, I recently watched what is it, Kiss of the Vampire, which is the one like completely non-Dracula or Karnstein movie, or one of the few.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one. I really like it. The end of the movie is just like Deus Ex bats, basically. They just kind of wrap everything up and they're just like, okay, bats, kill everyone. But yeah. I think that one's highly underrated, but I was actually going to mention a different Jekyll and Hyde movie, which is The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. I love Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, but Two Faces is the one I saw first, and that's the one where Jekyll himself is just like an ugly man, and Hyde is like a handsome like man who's like pulling all of these women who Jekyll can't get, and then it kind of subverts your expectations in that way, but it's also
kind of like a template for the Nutty Professor, that one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The original one with Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Right.
It's legitimately like one of the most chilling versions of Jekyll and Hyde I've ever seen, because like it's this incredibly gentlemanly looking guy, but it's also the most sadistic version of Hyde I've ever seen in some ways. He just does the most demented things. And I love Christopher Lee's role in that movie as like Dr. Jekyll's friend who is actually sleeping with his wife behind his back. Dawn Adams as Kitty Jekyll is really good. Dawn Adams is really good in most Hammer things, but she's really good in that one. And yeah, I think it's just one of the most legitimately different and unsettling versions of Jekyll and Hyde I've ever seen. I loved Sister Hyde. I just don't think it's as chilling as the Two Faces is. And yes, Ria, I've seen the 30s Jekyll and Hyde with Frederick March as well. I love that movie. The first horror movie I ever saw was the John Barrymore silent Jekyll and Hyde. So I kind of have a soft spot for Jekyll and Hyde movies, I guess.
How about you, Ross? What's your pick for most underrated Hammer film?
Probably 1972's Vampire Circus.
Great
one.
choice.
I stumbled across that one on BritBox, and I watched it, and I thought, I recognize a few faces in this, like Dave Prowse.
That's
a strong man. And a pre-Doctor Who Lalla Ward. And I just watched that one and was like hooked. Like, it just had me constantly watching it. And I thought, I've not heard of this one before. And then I thought, quite an underrated gem.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely a different one too.
For sure. The first time I saw that was towards the beginning of COVID, when I just started like sitting down and watching as many Hammer movies as I could get my hands on. And I realized that they're kind of in the middle of a pandemic too, or at least an epidemic. Like like their little villages quarantined, and they're not letting people leave or go in, except for the Vampire Circus.
Yeah.
And they're blaming the the Vampire Circus killings on the disease, maybe? I don't remember the plot that well, but like there's an epidemic happening, and it was like I kept picking epidemic and pandemic horror movies on accident towards the beginning of COVID, and I was just, God, not another one.
Yeah.
Also, I see my friend the Avid Writer in the chat. He just started up a YouTube channel and is doing not exclusively horror, but a lot of reviews of video games. Just did part of a Dark Souls playthrough and is also reviewing some early dark literature right now. So check out the Avid Writer's channel. Highly recommend.
All right.
Triv, did you go yet?
I did, but I actually have one other one that I could add, and it's not horror at all, but it was one of the first Mystery Science Theater ones I saw, and I still love the movie itself to this day. But Moon 02, it was like one of Hammer's their forays into sci-fi, was an absolute bomb. But it's such a fantastically fun movie. They do an anti-gravity fight, and there's like a weird Western bar. It is a fantastically fun little movie if you ever get the chance to see it. I don't think it gets a lot of love outside the MST3K community, but highly suggest it. So apologies for the random not horror recommendation, but it's such a fun little movie.
I actually remember, Triv, the day that Curse of Frankenstein was playing in Wild and Woolly video, I had a conversation with one of the owners of the store about that movie. I never saw it, but I remember him talking about the anti-gravity fight.
Oh man, check it out if you get the chance, because it's just, it's you can see Hammer's fingerprints all over it, and it is such a fun little movie. So,
I just imagine you ripping on that scene.
Oh, it's you're gonna sit there and laugh your ass off. It's great. So, every house should have an anti-gravity fight button.
I agree. Life would be so much more interesting.
It would be. It would
Just
be.
don't put one in the summer camp I work at.
Oh yeah.
How about you, Monty?
My least favorite again, because I just gave that one.
Your most underrated Hammer movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, Curse of the Werewolf.
Okay, so now we're going to talk the modern Hammer films. As you know, the Hammer was kind of rebooted in 2010 with the Woman in Black, and then they kept it going from there. You had the remake of Let the Right One In, Let Me In, and stuff like The Resident, stuff like that. The Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, what is your favorite modern Hammer film from the relaunch of Hammer, Anthro Fiend?
So, I cannot claim to have seen Let Me In yet. I want to, because I actually have been hearing more and more good things about it. I just am so attached to Let the Right One In that there's a little part of my brain that doesn't want to watch Let Me In, but like it looks to do some things different and to be a decent film in a lot of ways, even though it doesn't have some of the elements that really make me love Let the Right One In. But I have seen The Woman in Black, which I like okay, and I have seen The Lodge, and I guess The Lodge is my favorite. I don't enjoy The Lodge. It's a miserable movie. It's so depressing.
I agree. I agree. It's a weird movie.
Yeah,
and that's the best I can say without giving out the whole twist of the film.
Yeah, no, the plot of the movie is strange, but really interesting. I think it's brilliantly put together. It's just not an enjoyable experience in any way. It's
especially the ending.
No, it's so bleak. But it's a really well-made movie that I think is worth watching once. So I guess it's my favorite, but I'm also never gonna see it again. So
yeah. The Lodge is one of those films. It's like when you look at it and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then you say, what the hell again? And then when it ends, it's like, what the hell did I just What the hell did I just watch? It's nicely made. The acting is great. You know, it's just one of those films. It's just like, where did they come up with this idea? You know,
Honestly. Also, just to give a little nod to Rhea, Curse of the Mummy's Tomb is my favorite Hammer mummy movie. There's just a moment where a servant prostrates himself in front of the mummy and is like, destroy my body in the most painful way possible. And the mummy full on just head stomps him, just stomps his head open. I will never forget that moment.
Nice.
It's burned in my brain forever. Anyway.
How about you, Monty?
for once, I have still not seen Daniel Radcliffe and The Woman in Black, so I can't comment on that film. But I did see The Lodge, and I did see Let Me In. And for once, I was actually impressed that an American-made version of a decent foreign film was actually pretty good. So I'm going to go with Let Me In. Yeah, I thought both what's her name? Corey Grace Moretz, I thought she was good in the role. The little kid, he was pretty good in his role right there. It was one of the few times where the American version actually lived up to the actual foreign original film. So Martin, so Martin, when you get a chance to see it, I believe you're going to enjoy Let Me In.
Yeah, I think I will too. I'm just always going to be so partial to Let the Right
I know.
One In.
Yeah, it's put in this way. It's not the American version of Martyrs. So
yeah,
it's definitely solid. One of the better recent remakes, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, on a side note, I do again really like The Woman in Black, and I just found out that my local Shakespeare Theater Company for Halloween this year is doing a live version of The Woman in Black. So I will definitely be going and seeing that.
Nice.
That's good.
All right, so I would have to say I like The Resident, with Hilary Swank and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and he even had Christopher Lee in there.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about The Resident. What is it?
It's like a stalker.
Yeah, what year did that come out?
Yeah, it is kind of a stalker movie. It's not breaking any new ground by any means, but I just thought it was solid and entertaining.
Yeah, the Resident. I think it came out in 2011.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it had them three in it: Hilary Swank, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Christopher Lee. Where Hilary Swank plays a doctor in it, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's like the son of her landlord, and her landlord's Christopher Lee, and he gets this dark obsession over her, and even drugs her while she's asleep, and performs things.
Good way to state it.
Yeah.
I had no idea there was Modern Hammer with Christopher Lee in it, so I'll look into it.
Sure. Yeah. They managed to score him.
Yeah.
One last time.
Yeah, I've seen all these films we mentioned except for The Lodge. I never got around to watching that.
It's a rough
It's
watch.
one of the most probably the most successful of the bunch.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go with The Woman in Black.
Yeah.
Because on first viewing, that actually did genuinely make me jump. But yeah, I didn't find it scary. It was just jumpy.
Yeah.
And it was like Daniel Radcliffe's first lead film post Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was still fresh off that at the time.
Yeah, because I think he had just ended the Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I think it was his first film after Harry Potter ended.
Yeah.
Ben Grimm, of course you would say that.
I like that. That's a good one, Ben.
Yeah, I have not seen the Let the Right One In series yet. Is it good? I'm gonna put it on my list if it is, but I have so many shows to watch.
Yeah, I only saw the first episode, and it's a different take from the Let Me In.
I
As
didn't
far
know
as
they
the
did a
Danish
series
series,
of
as
that.
far as the Danish movie is concerned, it definitely a different take. I say it's more an Americanized version or a TV show, but it's not like it does. It's kind of has the same kind of premise as both the movie and the British and the Swedish show and the Swedish movie, but it's a different take.
Mm.
Mm.
Do you like it? Would you say it's worth?
Well,
worth
unfortunately, I
watching?
only got a chance to see I think the first two episodes. I never got a chance to see the whole series.
Gotcha.
Series, but from what I saw, it was it was interesting.
Okay,
Mm.
I'll put it on my list.
Yeah.
The Gorgon is awesome. Yes.
The Gorgon is awesome. Haven't
Mhm.
seen the Reptile yet, Sauron Baggins. Have y'all seen the Reptile, and is it worth it?
I actually haven't yet, but
I haven't either.
it's on my list.
Scream of
Scream
Fear.
of Fear. That's a good one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Another underrated Hammer movie there.
I don't know anything about Scream of Fear.
Oh, yeah. Christopher Lee's in that one too.
Yeah, he's in that one. I've not
It's
seen
interesting. It's not like it's kind of a more of a psychological
Yeah.
horror than a
Yeah, it's more
vampire or something, monster movie.
It's more like a psychological thriller. Yeah, I have not seen the Quiet ones yet, but I heard a lot of people did not like that one. That one stars, I think it's Jared Harris.
Yeah. I think Oliver Reed's in that too.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was awesome talking about all the Hammer classics. We're kind of
Hammer.
gonna shimmy away a little because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about here. But we're still in that wheelhouse with the next one. The next one's going to be what's our favorite non-Hammer collaboration between the legendary Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. They did a lot of movies outside of Hammer as well as Hammer. I think they did a total of like 26 movies together, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
In some countries, that would be considered marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with Mr. Ross from Random Horror. What is your favorite?
This one actually, struggled with, but I did find at least one film, The House of Lang Shadows. The Lang Shadows. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember I have seen it once quite a while ago, and maybe it's time for a revisit on that one. But I know it's a non-Hammer film with them two in it.
That had John Carradine and I think Vincent Price, right?
Yeah, it
That's
did,
right.
All them four.
I can actually talk about that one because that was my choice, actually. That's without question my favorite. That's actually one my family introduced me to because I think they watched it and got a kick out of it because it's got some humor to it as well.
Oh, and yeah, it's a comedy.
It's Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, John Carradine, Desi Arnaz Jr. as the main character. And he's been told by his boss to challenge to go to this old house for one night that's allegedly abandoned to write a mystery or horror novel and to see if he can do it in one night. And then someone knocks on the door. And it's John Carradine. And he's like, okay, this is fine. And then he goes back. And then someone else knocks on the door and it's Peter Cushing. And these characters keep interrupting him, but each time it's a new classic horror star. And they're all part of the same old family that live in the house. And they all have baggage. There's 3 different plot twists at the end of the movie. and it's some of the funniest acting that I've seen
Yeah.
any of the actors do. Christopher Lee still plays things relatively straight, but Peter Cushing's got an Elmer Fudd voice going on. Wadwick, is still alive.
Yeah, I do remember enjoying it and having a few chuckles out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Monty? What's your favorite non-Hammer collaboration between Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee?
I had to go back on this one because of all the movies that I've seen was mainly just a Hammer. But then I remember something that came out during the 70s. It was Scream and Scream Again. That's because it also had Vincent Price in it as well, who I call the original horror trilogy before Jason, Freddy, and Michael became the trilogy of horror. So you had, three of horror's great actors in this particular film. Because it's been a long while since I've seen Scream and Scream Again, but I just happened to thought that just creeped up into my mind, thinking about non-Hammer films that starred Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. And I was like, wait a minute, Vincent Price was in this movie, so I had to look it up just to remember it. Yeah, but yeah, definitely Scream and Scream Again. Seeing those three favorite horror actors of mine growing up, watching those people being in this one film, just basking and just having fun and just of course laughing because I have a very morbid sense of humor and just driving my mother crazy.
Excellent pick.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Triv?
I am a huge fan of Horror Express. It's got that great Oriental Express thing or Murder on the Orient Express thing going, but it's because there's a giant monster going on. Yes. Thank you. Just the twists and turns and the people that show up, I love that. So,
And Telly Savalas just shows up like halfway through the movie and just like hams it up like you wouldn't believe. Like
he's there for 5 minutes and then he's just like out. But yeah, just the star power that shows up in that alone, in addition to everything else, it's a great movie. It's well put together. Just the way that they do the effects, which it's 70s, but I think they did solid with that. The chance to see several people's brains. I mean, hey, it's an all around win-win.
Love that film. That's my pick as well.
Nice, you got good taste.
I still need to see it.
A lot of similarities between that and The Thing from Another World.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Finding the man frozen in ice and everything. The missing link.
And the fact that everybody's trying to get a look at it, but nobody wants to take a look at it. And
yeah, he was in a Disney film who was Return to Witch Mountain.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Someone asked it was Christopher Lee in a Disney movie, and I knew he was in one. I just couldn't remember which one it was, but then it was that movie.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance was in the previous one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then The Rock was in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same
The
thing.
remake, right?
Yeah, he was in the remake.
Yeah, the remake.
Those were fun movies, though.
They were.
All right, so move on to Amicus Films, which is probably the second big British horror studios back in the day, and they did a lot of anthology films. So, Mr. Fiend, what would be your favorite of the Amicus anthology films?
I'm gonna be basic and say The House That Dripped Blood.
Nice.
Because it's so much fun. There's some genuinely chilling moments. You've got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in completely separate segments, but it's just gotta be the segment with the vampire cape that cinches it for me. It's just so funny.
That is good.
a relatively horrific movie, but like it's legitimately, it just goes full throttle with the campy horror comedy in that segment. And
It
you've
does.
got Ingrid Pitt playing another vampiric character for a sec
Mhm.
as well. So, you know, it's got that going for it too.
Sure. How about you, Monty?
Yeah, I was going to actually pick that one too, was because it was that, and I think it's the Skull was another one of
Ooh,
my
good one.
favorites.
Yeah.
The
That's
favorites.
a good one.
Yeah, but definitely the House That Dripped Blood. For me, is one of my favorite films from the Amicus Productions.
Nice. I'm gonna go Tales from the Crypt.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going to say that one too. Only in the UK it was called Vault of Horror.
Yeah,
Well, there is Vault of Horror too. That's a
Yeah.
separate movie on its own.
Yeah, I think that was. I think it was in some countries, Tales from the Crypt Part 2, but here it was
Oh, yeah,
Vault
yeah.
of Horror.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to say that one, Vault of Horror.
Can I actually volunteer a second choice because The House That Dripped Blood is so basic, and I just quickly Googled other movies to make sure I didn't forget anything and remembered one of my favorites.
Good.
So has anybody else here seen The Uncanny?
I have.
I can't say I have.
Oh
I haven't seen
my
that one.
god.
Oh yes.
No.
I just got that. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So it's the wraparound segment in that movie is Peter Cushing.
Mhm.
And he's like this very timid guy who feels like a conspiracy theorist to the guy he's talking to. But this guy is convinced that every cat in the world is out to get him.
Oh yeah, I actually watched that one a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was on Legends Vintage Vault, and I ended up watching that. Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially it's a horror anthology where
Yeah, it
every segment is about cats.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Nice.
Yeah, I have seen it. Yeah.
So it kind of does like what Cat's Eye does.
Yeah.
The Stephen King thing.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Trivial Theater?
I would have to go with Dr. Terror's Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. I keep getting the
Yes.
horrors and
Mhm.
terrors mixed up. The idea of the tarot cards and everybody being cheeky and stuff. It's a fun. I like the way that they did it. It was a unique take on anthology, and I'm quite an anthology fan. So the way that they did it and where they end up and everything, yeah, well worth a watch.
Peter Cushing had a funny accent in that too. Like,
You do.
Yeah.
Peter Cushing loves doing funny accents. He just doesn't get
Yeah, I know.
to do them
Mhm.
enough.
yeah, Donald Sutherland in that one. Very young Donald Sutherland.
Oh yeah. Back in the day.
Mm. Yeah, it was a fun one. Christopher Lee's in that too.
Yep. It's going to be good if they show up.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Totally. But I'm gonna say, what is your favorite overall Amicus film, Monty?
That would be the House That Dripped Blood. That's one of my favorites.
Nice.
Favorite ones when it comes to Amicus.
What's your favorite story in that one?
Give me a second here. It would have to be the first one, Method for Murder, because it was the first one. So I had to. That's the first one because when it comes to anthology films, most of the time the first story always winds up being the best out of the bunch. But sometimes
Really?
it's not. Yeah, but most of the time, because mostly all the anthology horror films I've seen, it's always seems to be the first one in the set. Some others did some other stories, but most of the time, mostly all the anthology horror films I've seen, it's always winds up being. I guess because it's the first one, you want to get your attention. You want to make sure that you're going to enjoy the rest of the segments. the segments. But yes, definitely the first segment in the House of Drip Blood.
That's really interesting that you say that, because whenever I watch horror anthologies, I almost always feel like they save the most intense or like most effective segment for last. But
yeah,
I guess it's a matter of taste.
Yeah. Some do. Some do. Sometimes they'll put it last. Sometimes they'll put it first, and sometimes it's in the middle.
My pick is gonna be the one that is probably the most Hammer, and now the screaming starts with the Beauty Cushings in that one. Stephanie Beacham, kind of a haunted house, kind of almost similar like House on Haunted Hill in some ways, but it's a really fun one. How about you, Anthro Fiend?
I'm still torn between like I really like House That Drip Blood. I really like the uncanny for the novelty of it, but House That Drip Blood is the one that I think I legitimately like the most. For sure.
And Ross, what's your favorite overall Amicus film?
I'd probably say Vault of Horror, but then, like Martin reminded me of the Uncanny, which, like I said, I saw for the first time a few weeks ago, and I did enjoy watching that one with Peter Cushing. And we had Donald Pleasance in one segment as well, didn't we? Playing a Hollywood actor.
Yeah.
And we had them, yeah. I probably always refer to that one as the one with the cats in it. But yeah, the Uncanny, but I did like watching that one.
So fun.
But also Vault of Horror, when I remember that one segment where that guy goes into a restaurant, and then when the waiter asks him how he'd like his blood clot, and he realizes he's in a vampire. He realizes he's in a vampire restaurant, and then next thing they hang him upside down and put a tap in his neck, and then they use him as like a wine barrel or something.
So good.
Yeah.
But do they do keg stands off of him?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised no one picked the Asylum. That's one of the more well-known in the series.
I just got to get into more Amicus, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, you totally do. It's they put out some really good stuff, both as anthologies and otherwise, I would say.
Yeah.
Like my personal favorite. It's not. I don't think it's aged the best, but it's called The Beast Must Die, and it's kind of a take on a werewolf movie.
I love that movie.
And, it's awesome. The fact that it's played as kind of a murder mystery, and like just all of this technology, and they still can't track down the person, and like even at the end, just the little clock that says, "Ooh, which person did the thing?" And
yeah.
When they get us involved, the viewer.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
No, I love that stuff. And the thing is, like, you're mentioning all these movies, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. Like, I love The Beast That Must Die. I love The Uncanny. I just didn't remember that they were Amicus movies.
Oh yeah.
I just knew that they were movies from that era that I liked.
I had to look up a bunch too, though, because it's not with any of these, unless it's Hammer. You might know, their catalog front to back, but you may not know like where it falls specifically.
Gotta stop for the werewolf break.
Oh God, that was awesome.
That's so funny. See the watch, tick, 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 tick.
Every movie, regardless of genre or theme, should have a werewolf break from now on.
Oh yeah.
I love how they use the most cost-effective special effects imaginable. Just use a regular wolf, a real wolf.
Yeah.
And just some of the names too. They're like, I don't know why, but the name Paul Foot just struck me as such a weird, funny name. It's like, hello, my name is Paul Foot.
Oh, those Doctor Who movies with Peter Cushing were Amicus too. Like everything's
Yeah,
Amicus.
yeah,
I just
they were.
didn't know it.
Yeah, what the?
Mhm. Yeah, although they don't consider those two as part of Doctor Who canon, though.
Oh, they're definitely
they're
not
not.
canon, but
No.
they're fun.
No,
They're still
They're-
awesome.
their movie takes on already canon Doctor Who serials.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, I have a friend that's a fan of Who, and he always says, you know, it's such a different thing from person to person. It may not be technically canon by, you know, Doctor Who, not corporate, but their head people in charge. But like, you know, do you count the audiobooks? Do you count the little side movies? You know, there's so much
Yeah,
other stuff
yeah.
to consider into that, and every person, every Who fan kind of takes it in different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But them
you
two
can get into that
movies-
whole tangent with Star Wars as well. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we can't go there right now.
Sure. Be here another 7 hours.
It's about a conversation.
Them two Doctor Who movies also were made before the whole regeneration was a thing.
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Before the whole transition of actors came about. So basically, Peter Cushing is playing William Hartnell's.
Yeah, he's playing the first
Ah.
Doctor. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually.
Yeah.
I do love how they brought back the guy that played the main cop that helps out Doctor
yeah.
Who, and he's
Tony
like
Cribbins.
Donna Noble's dad. Like I love that
Yeah.
connection.
Mhm.
Yeah. He was earlier meant to be like a guest role in the 2007 Christmas special, but
Oh,
ended up being a reoccurring face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he was the character was so popular, everyone loved, you know, and
Mm.
they liked the actor who played him, and the character was so popular, they decided to bring him back.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
love
going to
that.
make his last ever acting credit in the upcoming 60th anniversary specials this year.
Mhm.
yeah, the fact that he's called Doctor Who in that is
Mm.
I can't what?
No, who?
Okay. Okay, Chris.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that joke to come.
Sorry. Just call me. Just
No,
call
I
me.
left myself
Just
wide
call
open
me
for
Dad
that
Joke Theater.
All right, guys. I thought we would have kind of an open discussion on one of the most well-known British horror films of all time, The Wicker Man. And yes, we're talking about the original from 1973. We're not talking about the remake.
Not
the cake
Not
film.
the bees, Sean?
Not the
Not the
bees.
bees. Not the bees.
Oh, come on!
Unless you want to make fun of it, I'm open for that.
I mean, I love a ridiculous Nicolas Cage performance, but that's about as far as we need to go discussing that one today.
But you know, just one other real quick thing on that. That is sad that that particular scene didn't even make it into the movie, right? At least the version I saw.
Not most of the cuts, I don't think. At least, yeah.
But the actual literal, not the bees, ah! That
Yeah,
didn't really make it in.
which is such a shame. I do think, however, that I'm like, is it just me, or is that one scene in Midsommar an homage to Nicolas Cage's bear suit in the remake of The Wicker Man?
Oh,
I
Could be.
did kind of get vibes
Yeah,
in that particular
like
one.
they're both folk horror, but
Yeah,
like
'cause
Yeah.
and I kind of got Wicker Man vibes, although it's to me, I don't know if they were trying to play on that or not. I think that was just their particular story and what they were trying to do in that particular film.
I
It just-
agree.
I don't think they
Legitimately,
were
I agree. I mostly asked as a joke.
yeah, I don't think they were trying to call upon some Wicker Man, trying to do a Wicker Man stuff. It just, for me, I just got the vibes, but I think that's just something part of the story.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, the Wicker Man. They actually showed that in my local theatre back in the spring for its 50th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
So it was like the 50th anniversary edition. I actually
Nice.
see that as a part musical as well, because they do sing quite a bit in it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I will say,
The
like the first
perverted songs.
Oh yeah. First time I saw it, I didn't have any context for anything beyond just what was going on screen, and the music choices felt so weird to me. But then you learn more about it, and it's like, okay, that makes more sense. So research before movies.
Yeah. So, guys, thoughts on this classic film, The Wicker Man?
I absolutely love it. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but to me, most of the time throughout the movie, it is absolutely a horror film, but it doesn't feel so much like a horror film to me. Because most of what's happening until the end doesn't feel very explicitly horrific. It's more of a mystery, and
Yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
about the culture clash of things, which
Yeah.
if you were in the shoes of our focus character is really unsettling. But mostly I like watching him get more and more uncomfortable with everything around him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It kind of
Yeah.
gives you the absolute definition of passive resistance.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, I think the music is amazing. It's just quite literally a joyful celebration of what's normal to them in their culture, but it's absolutely the most disturbing thing ever to our police officer main character. Again, we're going to talk about this, but I love that they've brought back a lot of familiar faces from earlier horror, like Ingrid Pitt's there. Most notably, you've got Christopher Lee in there as Lord Summerisle, and like he's known as like this is Count Dracula, but he's playing this like delightful, incredibly charming man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing explicitly horrific about his character throughout the whole thing, aside from, you know, what he does at the end of the movie, but he never does it in a way that's menacing. And like, I also love that became one of Christopher Lee's favorite roles that he ever did, and he legitimately liked looking into the ethos of like pagan cultures that he wasn't a part of, but grew to have this great respect for. So I just think it's a really interesting, well-made, enjoyable movie. Yeah.
He's highly intelligent, you know. The way he describes everything, you know, that he believes in, you know.
Absolutely. Also, he apparently read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy once a year. Like, how do you do that?
Audiobook.
See, if anything, he narrated the audiobooks. He didn't listen to them. But yeah, he and just the whole movie, I love the look and like the menace, but also the joyfulness of the whole ritual scene at the end. Highlight of the movie. With all of the garish costumes. So good. But I'll let other people talk now.
Yeah, watching that film was the first time I actually saw a different religion other than what I grew up on and what I seen in movies. So it was pretty interesting to me to see a different contrast and seeing how at first he's okay, but then once he gets more exposed to it, it goes against what he's been brought up in his religion, and then of course we find out the truth of what's happening. And he's like, oh well. Yeah, so I guess that's the reason why I kind of compare that to Midsummer, because you have the same situation where these people are in a different country, and the first thing once they see their stuff that they do, and they sort of freak out, but they don't leave. Don't leave, but
the difference between sorry to interject, the difference between Midsommar and The Wicker Man is The main character in The Wicker Man is a police officer who's an uptight Christian man who wants nothing to do with this. In Midsommar, they're anthropology students, so they're
No.
all about this.
I will say that I always love in movies where like faith overrides truth. Like he goes and finds all of the stuff that says there's no religion attached to this. Like literally, because you made these fruits, they're not built to, or apples, they're not built to grow on this island. You know, the climate isn't right. It's all wrong. And even despite that, you know, the faith overcomes, and it's like maybe like not even third generation. I think Christopher Lee was third generation in this on this island. Like, so it's not that far removed from, you know, quote normal like British existence, really. But just like how people go in, both for good and for bad, into anything that you can have beliefs with. That was always really fascinating to me.
That's one of the things that makes it so interesting, like the clash of religions. Like they believe fanatically about what they feel is right, you know, and to him it's what he believes and he feels is right, and he kind of, you know, the police officer's kind of in a way imposing his will on all the people. Like, what are you talking about? You can't. What about Jesus? What about, you know, what about the churches? And you
it's fascinating because he's imposing his will on them, but they're also completely imposing their will on him, like literally.
Yeah, exactly.
They lured him to the island as a sacrifice. Like the whole ending of the movie is both of their kind of blind faiths in their different religions.
Yeah.
Him singing his song as they're drowning him out with theirs, and just this very little clash of faiths that they're. And
you could see in a way why he fails, because dude, you're in the wrong place. You're preaching to the wrong choir, you know.
Absolutely.
And even also, the way that he
I was just gonna say really offhand, completely unrelated, TYTD, Theater of Blood, amazing movie, one of my favorites. Please continue.
I was just gonna say that the way that they approach like trying to like get their religion across, like he gets more forceful as they you know hold against him. And they just kind of, you know, it's not, again, it's kind of passive resistance. Like he pushes and shoves and does all this stuff, doesn't accomplish a damn thing. He's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I found that I really enjoy that it's more force does not mean you're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. And I like when he's talking to Lord Summerisle and he's like, what religion can they possibly learn jumping over bonfires? He's like, but they're naked, you know? It's like, of course, it's much too dangerous to jump over the fire with your clothes on.
Yeah. He's not wrong.
But he says makes a lot of interesting points. Like you believe in a ghost, you know? Like he's dead. He had his chance.
I imagine at the time it was sort of like, not in the same way, but like Temptation of Christ, like, oh, this is going against, you know, everything that a good Christian country should believe in and all that stuff.
Right.
What's up, Brad?
But it's pretty, it is pretty disturbing, some of the stuff that goes on in this town, like the perversion of it. Like when that girl, Britt Eklund in the bar, when all these old men singing about how, you know, the landlord's daughter, you know.
She's totally fine with all of it. Like, it's part of the culture.
Get these old perverts fawning over this young girl and stuff.
Yeah, like everything's very intensely sexual and about fertility in their culture, and that's just normal. That's just completely normal.
True.
And dude cannot wrap his head around that for some reason.
They're very free.
Very
they're free balling.
Doing it in the streets at night.
they're very free, except for the fact that they're dependent on this dude that they've brought to the islands, allegedly, for their crops to grow.
Mm.
That's the one respect in which they're not free, which is why they've brought this killjoy to their island in the first place.
Well, they just wanted to remove the stick from his ass, and it just ended up him being he had to go inside of a giant wicker man to be the stick to be able to get the stick out of his. Or something. I don't know. That didn't make any sense.
Close enough.
That's a good one.
We won't forget. It's Karnstein, not Karnstein.
Yep.
Yeah. What up, Brad?
All right.
But yeah, it's just a great story. How and a great twist. At the end, like you wouldn't see that coming.
Mm-mm.
That it's all a big ruse. There is no missing girl.
No,
That they're
she's
just
not missing. You all the sacrifice.
right.
A sacrifice!
The fool, and he's wearing. He even wears the fool outfit.
Yeah, they get him
Yeah.
like they know he's going to do that. They get him to walk
Yeah.
there in a fool outfit. Like they played him so hard. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the one of those most memorable endings in horror history. Got to be right.
Yeah.
Yep. If you just went into the movie not knowing anything about what happens, you're just like the whole time you're like, I don't get it. Why is it called the Wicker Man? And then at the end you're like, oh
shit.
oh shit.
Then some asshole in the crowd is like, but that's not wicker. That's, I don't know, Blue Island spruce or something.
Yeah, they did do a sequel called The Wicker Tree.
Did
Yeah.
they really?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had no idea that existed.
That's
Me
awesome.
neither.
I didn't. I mean, Christopher Lee's his part in it is just a mere cameo,
All right.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up now.
but it's
I think it went straight to video. I don't think.
yeah,
Of course it's a
Yeah,
direct
it
video
wasn't.
sequel.
wasn't a good one.
No.
Is it better or worse than the Nicolas Cage movie?
It's kind of forgettable.
Yeah, I look at the Nicolas Cage one as an accidental comedy.
That is true.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I know about the not the bee scene and the going around punching people in a bear suit, but I've heard that the rest of it honestly isn't that funny. So
It tries to do, they try to add more lore to it, and I don't think it works as well as it maybe could have had it just, take a couple of potatoes out of that 10-pound bag so it's actually, just 12 pounds of potatoes instead of 20.
But I gotta say, Christopher Lee is awesome in this movie. Like, it's one of his best roles, I think, easily. He's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And so is Edward Woodward. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
Great cast. Very, like you said, the soundtrack, very interesting, very different for a horror movie,
who doesn't love a John?
But it all makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of the most joyful soundtracks for a horror movie I've ever heard, and I love that.
Yeah. The maypole and interesting discussion in their classroom with the little kids talking about
Okay,
the phallic
TYTV's
symbols.
yeah.
Mhm.
TYTV's saying some wild stuff in the chat, which like it sounds wild. I kind of want to listen to the audio drama, but like Howie escaping kind of defeats the whole point of the first movie, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that sequel, but like the fact that he fights a dragon intrigues me enough that I do want to listen to the audio drama. Like, why is there a dragon? I'm not complaining, but why?
They had a giant
Why?
wicker man that could possibly was made of, you know, whatever kind of spruce. Why not have him fight a dragon? Maybe it was a guy in a dragon suit.
Okay, giant wicker man versus guy in giant dragon suit. Wicker man kaiju fight.
Yes, absolute kaiju fight. Let's get this shit on.
Yes.
Right now. I want to see this. Let's get this crowdfunded.
I'll start a GoFundMe page right now.
Good. We'll get Christopher Lee to reprise his role. It'll be great.
Back from the dead. Christopher Lee zombie stars.
I mean, if they could find a CGI Peter Cushing to put in Rogue One, I can find a CGI Christopher Lee.
Gonna
And
CG
everyone.
him. Oh.
I won't do that. I won't do that to you.
Oh.
I won't. I would never.
That's just rude to everybody.
I'll just repurpose audio clips from the original Wicker Man. I'll splice them together in different formations and just always have Christopher Lee talking from off screen.
I like it. I like it. He could be like a Force ghost.
Yeah. he'll be the commentary on the fight.
There you go. I like it. It'll be fantastic.
Just one more thing on that. I love how in the end with Sergeant Howie, you know, even when he's in the Wicker Man, he's still like, you know, he can't let it go. It's like, oh Lord, oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's not going to save you now.
I mean, it depends on how strong his faith is. If I was inside of a giant Wicker Man looking to burn to death, I would probably say some of those things too.
Yeah,
But like,
probably.
would you keep your faith in that god, or would you quickly try to convert to the god that everybody else is singing to?
You know what? I feel like they would look at that and say, you know what? Now you're just sucking up. I'm going to burn you even slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Moving to
I
the
guess
top-
like you're gonna
the
burn
top of
anyway.
the-
So are you gonna try to be saved by? Are you gonna try to be saved by the original god you were worshiping, or like be like, well, at least I'm gonna help their crops grow? Like,
I will be mulch either way.
true.
At least part of me will be mulch.
Well, he didn't really sound like Peter Cushing, though. That was the only problem I had with it. Didn't you think he sounded a little off in the Rogue One there? It's like when they tried to do the H2O, Halloween H2O, and they tried to do Donald Pleasant's voice, you know, instead of using like some audio of Donald Pleasant's, some actor did it, and it was,
Starring Baggins.
I don't know. I didn't like it.
There's a Starring Baggins is saying there's a Wicker Man novelization. I only knew about the original movie and the remake. I had no idea there was a novelization. I had no idea there was another movie. I had no idea there was an unproduced sequel with a dragon in it. Like, this is all new.
I definitely didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was based on David Penner's '67 novel called Ritual, because I believe that's where the first Wicker Man is based upon that novel.
Okay. So there's a book, there's an adaptation, and then there's a novelization of the adaptation of the book. Got it.
Then there's probably an audio drama of the novelization of the movie that was originally made from the book.
Correct. But can we get a movie based on the audio drama?
Yeah.
Or a
Maybe.
Wicker Man comic book.
There you
Wicker
go.
Man graphic
Ooh,
novel.
yeah.
In like pagan woodcut style.
Expensive, but worth it.
Absolutely.
It was chilling. Was those masks that they made, like the townsfolk wore? Those are really sick looking.
Yeah, I love the masks. I love everything about that ending ritual scene. Everything is simultaneously so joyful and so chilling.
Oh yeah.
it's
And
the
they
best.
all show up on the hill, on the horizon, on the hill, top of the hill.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Let's move it on, guys. Have you all seen this folk horror classic,
Yes.
Blood on Satan's Claw?
Not yet. I haven't
Very
seen
that
well.
one
it.
I have
Yeah.
not.
Oh,
I have
yes.
not seen that one.
You gotta check it out. I won't give it away then.
I know a lot about it.
Yeah,
I
so
just
have I.
haven't
But I have
seen it
not
yet.
seen it.
Yeah, if you like The Wicker Man, I think you really like.
I saw it
Blood on
once, like
Satan's
14 years ago, so I don't remember much about it.
Highly recommend it.
I know there are some notably very disturbing scenes in it,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
I watched it right before the stream just to because it had been a while since I'd seen it, and
Mhm.
yeah, leave it at that.
It's got Linda Heaton from Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And it has I think it's the second. Well, speaking of Doctor Who, I think it's the second Doctor's
Peter,
one of his assistants, Wendy
Wendy Padbury.
Yes,
Oh.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Who played
Yeah.
Zoe.
I met her once.
Really?
Lovely
Oh, that's
woman.
awesome.
Yeah,
you
Comic Con.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, she was a nice woman. Had a photo with her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did she have the big hair the way she had in the series?
Yeah, but it was all like grey now.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Traveling through space and time does that to you.
Yeah.
Also, since I haven't seen the movie, I probably won't say much about Blood on Satan's Claw, but I did want to mention really quick. I got this a while back. It's a zine from the UK called Hwet. It's an old English word, I think, but this issue is all about folk horror and has like a master list of movies in it. And Ria from Karnstein also did an article about vampires in it. So it's got an article in the back called Why We Burn the Wicker Man. It's got really beautiful woodcut style illustrations, and it's also got a folk horror trope bingo card in the back. So you can figure out if you're living in a folk horror movie or not.
I would just assume that I am and call it a day. It helps the coffee go down a little easier.
But like, you've got peculiar friendly locals, also peculiar unfriendly locals. You've got your locked wooden cabin, the sinister village preacher, jarring screeching violin music, all the good stuff. Oh, accusations of witchcraft. Most of the things we've discussed on the stream. But just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, but check it out, guys. Think you'd really like it.
Yeah, the Shudder documentary too on folk horror is incredibly good, and it gives a good. If I remember correctly, because it's been a bit, but I think they do a good bit on Blood on Satan's Claw, as well as like a lot of other folk horror you may and may not think about watching. So
apparently, the director of that movie, Keir Legenis, was supposed to originally just do a special feature for the newer release of Blood on Satan's Claw, and then just went down a rabbit hole with the whole genre until she realized she had made a 4-hour documentary instead of a special feature on Blood on Satan's Claw.
Wow.
you know, it actually happens more frequently than you'd think.
So yeah, Blood on Satan's Claw was kind of the reason that movie happened. So I'm really looking forward to watching it and Blood on Satan's Claw.
Look forward to hear back on what you thought.
Very Hammer-esque too, in a way. You know?
Oh yeah.
Could
It's got
easily have been a Hammer movie.
Oh, definitely. Like the way everything is set up, it would fit right in with Hammer. There's no doubt about that.
Yep. I know for sure that people consider the Blood on Satan's Claw, the Wicker Man, and Witchfinder General to be like the holy trinity of folk horror. So
I could totally see that.
I
And this one,
I could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like modern day, a lot of people kind of say Midsommar and The Witch are kind of the
modern ones, yeah.
But that's kind of the three movies everybody brings up now.
Sure.
Yeah. And this one, Blood on Satan's Claw, definitely ticks all the boxes for like something set in that era. It's besides the kind of goofy like actual Satan's Claw, that's part of it, gets a little hokey, but the rest, yeah.
The actual Satan's Claw. Okay, you've sold me on this movie.
he needs
There
a good
is one.
Let me say this: he needs a good manicure.
Oh boy.
And the places his hand manages to go, you look at it and go, "Wow, that's impressive." I mean, genuinely.
Are you sure? Are you sure he needs a trim, or should we just like paint his nails?
You know, he needs to do something because they're a bit raggedy. So he either needs to like paint them and get like a really good lacquer on them, or he needs to trim them back because the way they are now, nah. I don't. If you're gonna be Satan and claim to be Satan's Claw, you need to have a good looking set of claws.
Yeah, you're the tempter. You got to be appealing.
I mean, at least get the blood from beneath them, for God's sake.
Well, the movie's about the blood on Satan's claws. If you take the blood off, you don't got a movie.
But you have to get rid of the old blood so new blood is there. Otherwise, people are going to be like, "Hey, I think the Satan's Claw is coming to get us because it smells."
Oh no! Oh no! I can smell the blood on Satan's claw.
Run! Where? I don't know.
They say when filming it, Patrick Wymark was like shit faced out of his mind, you know, like
that does not surprise me.
Probably why the one scene he gets shit faced. And...
No, but it's an effectively done thing, and I don't know if there's anything really. There's obviously a lot of folk horror, but I don't think there's anything quite like that that's been done since. So
it's very well written, especially someone like the incantations they say in there. I'm like, well, this is creepy, and you could probably conjure up something, the stuff that they're coming up with and saying.
Oh, great! We just started the 7th Evil Dead movie.
Oh crap! I played Blood on Satan's Claw in my house again. Now there's something coming out of my sink.
Yeah,
yeah. It's more the floors you have to worry about, especially if they're wood floors.
Yeah,
I think you're okay with carpet. You just get a bump going.
Yeah, I'm just worried about anybody who has animal heads mounted anywhere in their house.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But you could just tell when they wrote this movie, they did their research, you know.
Oh yeah, no, it's incredibly well done. Like everything, the way that it's laid down, there's little that you can say about this that isn't relatively positive. So
saying that makes me more excited to watch it because I love folk horror, but I like well-researched folk horror too.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it's like the Wicker Man in that sense.
Yeah, like the Wicker Man. And
they did their research, you know.
Like Midsommar is disturbing to me, so I don't watch it that much, but I love the meticulous detail of the rituals in that movie. Like I love how much thought goes into it.
Yeah, he definitely did their research on Midsommar. Hey, listen, guys. Hey, I got to get ready to go.
Okay.
Take care, Monty.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks for hanging, man.
All right, y'all.
See ya.
Great job, horror miser Monty G.
Don't we have like one last topic anyway?
Yes, so I'm sure you guys will be excited to discuss some modern British horror films. So, what are some of your favorites? You know,
I love Dog Soldiers.
Oh yeah,
that's a great one.
Valid choice.
Yeah. Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers.
28 Days Later.
Oh yeah,
fantastic one. Just the work that went into that. The fact that they managed to shut down. Is it the M1 going into London that they managed to shut down? Like that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and how they got up at like the early hours of the morning to just film the abandoned London scene, like when he's walking along Westminster Bridge.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kickstarted the a new boom in the zombie genre. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
it's kind of almost dead at that point. You know.
Yep. So they infected them with rage.
Yeah.
Highly appropriate. What do you guys, and I'm always curious because I guess I've not watched it since it came out, but thoughts on 28 Weeks Later?
That's a
Haven't
good
seen
Good
sequel.
follow up. You know.
No, that's an alright sequel. I mean, it didn't get as much praise when it first came out, but
I know they're
as-
making another movie, but they should be calling it 28 Months Later.
yeah, they're calling it 28 years later.
28 years
They,
later.
they skipped
Yeah.
a unit of measurement there.
Well, they
Yeah.
also skipped days, really. No, wait, they didn't.
Yeah, days,
Sorry,
weeks,
right. I was thinking.
months, years. Come
No,
on.
I was thinking. I was thinking the Sandra Bullock movie, and I was going to make a joke about 28 days. 28
Yeah.
days. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, no, I have seen memes that were just like, I'm not really sure I understand how this trilogy works, and it's 28 days, 28 days later, and 28 weeks later put
Yeah. I
together.
have no idea.
Yeah, TW Reviews has mentioned a film called Censor, which came out, was it 3 years ago now?
Yeah,
I've
That's
heard good
that
things
one.
about Censor.
Yeah.
that's a British film set in the mid-80s during the video nasties craze, where a
Mhm.
woman is working for the BBFC, which is British Board of Film Classification, and she sort of spirals into this world of madness as the film progresses, like through,
That sounds
through her
interesting.
job.
Yeah,
through
I
her
heard
job
great
to
things
see
about
all
it.
these
I just
films.
have not had the time to watch it.
The tangential
Yeah.
horror that he mentions on screen too, the Video Nasties Definitive Guide, is fantastic if you're into video nasties. I've got it too, and it's really quite good.
Yeah, I may watch that as background info for Censor and then watch Censor. If I
What,
have
like
time.
this one?
Ooh, that's awesome.
Ooh. Ah,
Gimme!
Definitely on the list.
Came out in 2014, he says.
Because there was one that came out. There was one called Censor that I thought came out much more recently,
mm.
but maybe it was just released. Like it.
Revenge.
Who knows?
Yeah. I think Video Nasties, the definitive guide, came out in 2014. Censor's
Oh.
very new.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Prevenge, have been meaning to watch for a while. I'm actually doing a project with one of my college teachers on motherhood and horror. So
Nice.
Prevenge would be a good one to watch for that. She's already watched it and I haven't. So
The lead actress in that film, Alice Lowe, she was really pregnant as well when making that film.
Wow. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
did she also direct it?
Yeah, she wrote and directed it too.
Yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say The Descent is an excellent British film.
Is that the one that Monty doesn't like? Or not as
Monty
much?
doesn't like
The
it?
Descent?
What?
No, maybe I'm wrong. There was one that was. God, I must have my thoughts wrong on that one. I thought there was one that was really popular that he was like, maybe it was The Descent too. I don't remember, but no, the Descent's fantastic. Such a good movie.
Yeah, there's two cuts of that, isn't there? One where she makes it out.
Yeah,
there's
when
the
she takes out of the
original
cave,
British
yeah.
cut. Then there's the original British cut where she turns out she didn't escape and it was all just a dream. That's the version I remember seeing.
Yeah.
The French one is pretty. Isn't it originally French?
No, it's British film from Neil Marshall.
Oh,
who
okay.
gave us
He
Dog
directed
Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I
You
thought
might be getting this mixed up with Martyrs just a little bit.
maybe. Yeah, I think so. I apologize.
That's the thing, Rob. The atmosphere is amazing. You know, I almost felt like you didn't even need the monsters in the cave. Like,
Honestly,
just them being stuck in the cave was like a scary enough thing, you know. And then the dissension in between the women, you know, finding out things they didn't know before, you know, as the story unfolds. Like they start to not trust each other.
Well, and it's always, you know, you get in those kind of situations and everything comes out. It doesn't matter
Right.
how long ago it was.
Mm.
Because he's stuck in a cave alone with only fighting for his life.
So why not add all the extra baggage on top of that? That just makes everything better.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's monsters.
Yeah. With probably terrible nails.
Can't be worse than the blood on Satan's claw.
That's true. That's true. I was gonna add, it's not horror per se, but Shaun of the Dead. Like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Is,
Oh yeah.
Well, it's hard
The
comedy.
Cornetto trilogy.
yeah. But some people look at it and go, "Oh, it's just comedy." Like there's that. People's definitions can be so kind of here and there, but no, it's such a great movie, and one of the
Oh, yeah.
I would say one of the better zombie movies that's come out in the past 20 odd years.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's such a well done zombie movie too. And it does its best to honor the George Romero films, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although
Well,
it does. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Ross.
yeah, I'm just saying I need to get off now because it is like 2:40 in the morning for me.
But you lasted a lot longer than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Glad you
It was
could
a
hang with
pleasure.
us.
Yeah.
All right. And then
Alright, then.
I will probably have to tell you my picks and then head out as well. But take
Yeah.
care, Ross.
Yeah, have a
you
great
all
night.
too.
Peace out,
It's been
Ross.
great
Thanks for
chatting.
hanging.
It was a pleasure
Yeah,
to
it's
meet
been
you.
great chatting. Thanks for having me on.
By the
See
way,
ya.
if you guys did not know before you leave, Ross,
Yeah.
Ross was in the first ever horror hangout. Do you remember that?
Yep.
It was
Yeah,
called
I
the
remember that.
the Google Hangout.
Yeah, I remember.
That's right.
Yep.
All
See ya.
Bye.
right, have a good
Bye,
one.
Ross.
I will say too that it has one of the best. Shaun of the Dead has one of the best kills with the record. Like that's
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love what they're going through 'em, the Batman soundtrack.
oh,
Throw
yeah.
it out.
So for me, I have two picks. One slightly more well known, one slightly less well known. So the first movie I wanted to bring up is from a couple of years ago, Last Night in Soho.
Ooh, good
Oh.
one.
That just came out like what, 2 years ago, maybe.
I think
Yeah,
last
2
year.
years ago. Same director as Shaun of the Dead.
Nice.
And yeah, girl goes to move to an art school in Soho, is immediately like estranged from her family or estranged from the people who are at the college, cannot stand her roommate. But she also has like slightly sixth sensey perceptions of things. Like she's at home, she is able to see her dead mother. So she moves into an old house or an old apartment that has a little bit of a history to it, as she finds out, and finds herself like in the life of this girl who is a big performer at the time. And at first she loves it until she figures out that the girl was murdered. So she goes about like essentially solving a murder through like supernatural time travel and like losing her mind. And it has a very like giallo feel to it in some ways.
Nice.
There's also
That sounds really interesting. That's on my list.
Yep. There's also a big Halloween party scene partway through where she starts seeing a bunch of ghosts in the middle of the Halloween party, but like all of the mean girls from her college are dressed like the girls from The Craft. It's really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, really fun one. The other one is one I saw at a Indiana horror film festival. It was still doing the festival circuit, and it's called Feed Me. And it's one of the most wild movies I've seen in a long time. It's this
Nice.
guy whose wife has recently died. She's committed suicide, and he doesn't want to live anymore. So he's just kind of sitting there dejected. And this wild man comes up to him who's got like the weirdest, most over the top, like Southern fried American accent you've ever heard. And like gives him this, like, gives him his like number and is like, call me. And what we find out is that the guy's a cannibal and he's offering to eat this man to end his life.
Oh, I think there was like, I think it was Nightmind Nightmind did a story about all these different Reddit posts, and he was I'm not saying it's based on that, but there is a story that's similar to that.
Yeah, it is based on a real conversation and event that did happen in some sort of forum. But basically, the two have a conversation, and this guy consensually agrees to be eaten by this other man. And the rest
There's
of the
people
movie,
that do that in real life, or that,
Yeah.
that want to, you know. There's like websites about that with people are cannibals and they want to eat somebody, and like
but the rest of the movie is like the relationship between the two of them, because the cannibal wants to really like take his time and enjoy it, whereas the otherwise guy's just like, get it over with. I don't want to live anymore. My wife is dead. So it's kind of the push and pull between the two of them, and like we learn things about the cannibal, and like maybe he's not exactly who he says he is. He's got a lamp room in his house where he just has random lamps just piled up in a room. We don't know why he has them. He has weird paintings of his mother on the wall. Like it's like incredibly disturbing, but also surprisingly funny. And it's one of the wildest movies I've seen in a really long time, and very British, so I would recommend it.
Nice.
You have any other recommendations, trivia?
Nope.
Peter?
I think that's about it for me.
All
I'm
right.
just realizing how much I need to brush up on my British horror.
So fair. I just need to go watch all the Amicus movies now. Fair.
Yeah, there you go. I believe Matt. Did you ever see Madhouse with Vincent Price? I think that was an Amicus too.
I
That's
did.
a really good one.
I did see Is Madhouse the one where he's like playing a horror actor?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, that one's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have seen Madhouse, and I do have
Peter
that on
Cushing's in that one too.
Yes, I have seen Madhouse. I have seen Madhouse.
I don't think I don't think that they're both in this one, but Monster Club from the 80s.
Another Amicus that I have
Another
not yet
Amicus,
seen.
and
That's
fantastic.
an anthology one, right?
It is, yeah. And there's all the interludes, so it kind of takes place at this club for monsters, but the monsters are like the most spirit Halloween monsters you've ever seen in your whole life.
I love it.
And so it's a club, and like all the in between, like the wraparound story, every single break has like a music act, and they're fantastic music acts.
Definitely on my list.
Awesome.
I saw that's on Tubi. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, most of the Amicus ones are on Tubi. Like not all
Right.
of them, but a
That's
good
how I
chunk of them.
saw a lot of them. Like,
Oh yeah, it's a good way to go. So you absolutely can't beat that.
Yep. Also, if you're not a Tubi person, I know that Turner Classic Movies in October shows a surprising amount of Amicus.
Yeah.
Because I've recorded a lot of it. So if you're someone who gets like cable TV still, Turner Classic Movies shows a lot of Amicus.
And I think too they have, and I don't remember which streaming platform it's on, but they do. There is a like a TCM like section. I'm not going to say.
Okay.
But I think it might have been Max. But with all the shakeups there, I'm not sure if they still do that.
I'll have to check.
They do have their own app though too that like Watch TCM or something like that.
That's true.
So.
I'll have to look into that.
But I know, and with Tubi, the one thing that sucks, and I think it's just the UK, but unless you're using a VPN, you can't get Tubi in the UK, which is
really?
sad. But being that we're talking, or at least it's the way it was the last time I checked, which was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. So that might have changed. But as of this point, yeah.
Yeah. I'm also kind of trying to wean myself off of using Tubi just because one, the ads are kind of annoying, but two, their ad revenue is going towards Fox News, and Fox News now, and Fox News doesn't like people like me. So
I 100% understand.
Yeah,
it's kind of a last resort thing. I was surprised. Pluto actually does a decent amount. Like, it's kind of the same setup as Tubi. They're more like traditional cable setup, but they do have a fair amount of on-demand stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Avoid the app. It's if you can, because it can be a little glitchy, but if you just watch it like on the web, you're in pretty good shape that way. So
I have the app.
And it seems like it's a here and there thing, but like there was this whole time where like it would glitch and show you a few minutes of a thing, go to commercial, and then come back and repeat that same block of the show. So, but anyway.
I watched it because they have all the James Bonds and the Three's Company.
Nice.
That's so
I need to watch a lot more Bond as well.
Oh, I'm so far behind on Bond. I just caught up on all the Mission Impossibles, but I'm terrible with Bond.
Yeah.
I'm way behind on Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
My dad and I have watched some of the Bond stuff together, but definitely gonna have to catch up on it soon.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
A lot of them have like people from Hammer and stuff.
Well, because it's the same era.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you like, it seems like with the UK stuff, like if you're in a TV show or in a movie, like you just get sucked back into everything. Like you're not just a TV actor or a movie actor. It's you kind of jack of all trades.
True. All right, guys. Well, I think I will wrap it up now. Awesome stream. I had such a great time. Been wanting to do this one for quite a while. And thank you everyone who joined us tonight in the chat. We had all kinds of people in the chat tonight.
Absolutely. They all rock the house. We love them all.
Oh yeah. Awesome guests, Anthropomantic Fiend and Random Ross from Random Horror. And of course our regulars, Trivial Theater, the Horror Miser Monty G, who had some problems with Jen and Christian, unfortunately.
I missed them.
Man.
They had bad internet connection, I guess.
That's too bad.
It's unfortunate. It would have been great to hear their thoughts.
Well, and the thing is, you could always do something like this again, maybe change up your question slightly, but do something similar.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a blast. Right up my wheelhouse. You know, I love this stuff. Big fan of British horror cinema. So
and you got the discs to show for it, which is pretty awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm only collecting for sure Hammer's vampire movies right now, but like seeing your stuff and just talking about this makes me want to collect everything, which is not good for my bank account. But,
yeah, mine either, really.
Black Friday sales.
You could get they have like box sets on Hammer.
That's so true. Those box sets are like worth almost as much as buying the movies individually sometimes, though.
It is tough on the budget when you buy each one separately and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm running out of shelf space too.
True. Me too.
Yeah, you know, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well,
you can always get more shelves.
I'm running out of, when I say I'm running out of shelf space, I'm running out of space on the shelves and I'm running out of space for shelves. So
we're just gonna close in like Star Wars and
yeah, no, literally. My parents have been like, we need to build you a movie shed in the backyard because we're running out of space in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, we're collectors.
There we are.
All right, guys. Well, everyone have a great night, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
In the Horror Hangouts live stream. Woohoo. And have a great night.
Thanks so much, Don.
Yes.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.